58 years old, a lifetime spent behind the wheel of my trusty International, a faded red beast with more miles than a politician's lies. And I'd never seen anything quite like it. That day started like any other, hauling farm equipment. Out of Wichita, the melancholy twang of country music, my only companion on the endless Kansas highway. The air hung heavy, thick with the scent of wet earth. A smell so ingrained in my bones, it felt like a heartbeat. Then past mile marker 74 on Highway 69, heading towards Emporia, I saw her. A ghost, really. A solitary white figure slumped by the roadside back to me. I slammed on the brakes, heart leaping into my throat, convinced it was some mirage conjured by fatigue. But it wasn't. A young woman, maybe 30-ish, stood there in a mud-caked wedding dress, barefoot, her face a mask of smeared makeup and utter devastation. Something in her posture, the way her arms were wrapped tight around herself, spoke volumes. I approached, cautiously asking if she was all right, my voice raspy from years of diesel fumes and bad coffee. Her eyes, swollen and red-rimmed, held a sorrow that went beyond tears. It was a hollow ache, a soul laid bare. "Take me away," she whispered, her voice choked with grief. "Anywhere, just away from here." No further explanation was needed. She climbed into my truck without a word, the silence stretching between us. Like a vast, empty plain, miles blurred into a tapestry of grey sky and endless road. She stared out the window, a statue of heartbreak. I didn't pry, never have been one for prying, but something about her resonated deep within me. Then, unexpectedly, the dam broke. "I was getting married today," she blurbed, her voice barely above a whisper. "Everything was perfect. The church, the music, the dress. And then at the altar my cousin showed me messages, pictures, videos, with another man. Months of it." The words hung in the air, heavy with betrayal. "I couldn't," she choked out. "I couldn't pretend." I just drove, the engine a low hum against the backdrop of her shattered world, my heart aching for a stranger whose pain felt intimately familiar, a silent testament to the unexpected twists and turns of life, the ones that leave you utterly, breathless and forever changed. He'd picked her up downtown, a whirlwind of tears and a crumpled dress. She'd barely spoken until she finally looked at him, her eyes still glistening. But now there was something else simmering beneath the surface, a quiet, fierce resolve, a tiny spark in the ashes. "Thanks for stopping," she whispered, her voice raw. He just nodded, a calm smile playing on his lips, the kind you get after facing enough life's punches. He knew sometimes the best escape is simply leaving. The silence in the cab wasn't heavy anymore. It felt lighter. He had no idea where he was taking her, but this unplanned detour felt significant, the kind of moment that carved itself into your soul. They headed towards Charleston, the sun finally breaking through the storm clouds, casting a golden light on her still damp clothes. They were more than just passenger and driver. They were two souls adrift, finding a temporary harbor in each. Other's company. He broke the quiet. "What's your name?" "Camilla," she breathed, the name as delicate and strong as she seemed. "Jack," he replied, the nickname fitting the situation. She remained withdrawn, huddled in on herself, a fragile bird caught in a storm. They drove past a quaint town, houses painted in cheerful hues, a scene of idyllic small-town life. Dogs, napping on porches, women selling warm bread. He almost stopped but decided against it. Sometimes all you need is space to breathe. Then, out of the blue, "Do you think I'm crazy?" she asked, her voice barely a tremor. He stroked his beard, considering his answer. "Nah, brave. Most people would have choked down their tears and walked down that aisle. You didn't." A tiny smile, almost imperceptible, flickered across her face. "My mom's gonna kill me," she said, attempting a laugh that trembled on the edge of tears. 6 months. It's been 6 months of untangling everything. He chuckled softly. Life isn't a wedding, kiddo, it's yours. If it ain't right, you gotta walk away, even if it hurts like hell. The weight of the world seemed to lift from her shoulders. Charleston faded into the rearview mirror. The road ahead stretched out, long and empty. He wasn't in any rush. No deadline, no destination, just the open road and this unexpected companion. Where you headed? He asked, his gaze fixed on the ribbon of highway unfurling before them. She shook her head. Nowhere, I guess. Maybe a bus. Savannah. Jacksonville. Just away. He understood that feeling. Sometimes you're not running from a place. You're running from yourself. On a whim, he pulled into a nearly deserted gas station. He returned with 2 steaming coffees and some pastries. She accepted them, her hands shaking slightly. They ate in silence, watching 18-wheelers rumble past like behemoths on a never-ending journey. It was in that quiet moment, sharing simple things, that it clicked. This was more than a ride, this was something bigger. He tossed the empty cups. Want to see the ocean? He blurted out. Camilla stared at him, surprised. I've never seen the ocean, she whispered. He smiled, a genuine smile this time. Then let's go. A beat-up truck, a woman with a wedding dress crumpled like a forgotten map, and a destination, the Pacific. We were heading west, leaving a lot of wreckage behind, not that we talked about it much. 8 hours stretched before us, a lifetime maybe, across the vast emptiness of the American Southwest. Albuquerque blurred past, then Santa Fe, the miles unspooling like a threadbare yarn. The old engine groaned, a mournful song matching the quiet ache in our hearts. She slept, curled in the passenger seat, clutching that worn jacket like a lifeline. The remnants of her bridal gown, a stark reminder of what we'd left unsaid. Fuel stops and lukewarm coffee punctuated the journey, fleeting encounters with the curious gazes of strangers who understood the unspoken language of the road. The setting. Sun painted the New Mexico sky in fiery hues, mirroring the turmoil, slowly fading from Sarah's face. Even Amarillo couldn't quite shake the quiet that had settled between us, a peace born of shared sorrow. Her sleepy question, "Where are we?" felt almost absurd, as if she'd forgotten the unspoken pact we'd made. "To the sea," I said, the words tasting of salt and hope. The Texas landscape unfolded, a vast, lonely canvas under a star-studded sky. We found refuge in a roadside motel near El Paso, a brief respite before the final push. She wouldn't leave the truck, finding solace in its worn embrace. Morning arrived, painted across the sky in hues of orange and rose, a breathtaking dawn that seemed to whisper possibilities. The road became our confidant, twisting and turning through Texas towards the coast, a journey of silence that spoke volumes. It was somewhere between San Antonio and the Gulf that the question came, almost. Casually, "Sarah, you have family. Anyone you could stay with?" The unspoken answer hung in the air, heavy and uncertain, yet also laced with a fragile hope for a new beginning. The salty air, thick with the scent of freedom, hit us first. Sarah had been quiet, lost in thought, a storm brewing behind her eyes. She'd escaped, but the escape hadn't chased away the ghosts. She needed space, a deep breath, and I knew better than to rush the healing. Then, the Pacific. It unfolded before us, Big Sur's dramatic coastline, a breathtaking backdrop to her. Silent struggle. It was a first glimpse of the ocean for her, and the sheer magnitude of it, the endless expanse, the untamed beauty, seemed to seep into her very being. We found a quiet spot, a cliff's edge where the only boundaries were the sky and sea. She shed her shoes, the worn earth cool beneath her feet. The bouquet, those pathetic crushed flowers, a tangible symbol of her past, was her first offering. To the wind, it danced on the breeze, a tiny, ephemeral ballet of letting go. The tears followed, but these weren't tears of sorrow. They were cleansing, a cathartic release, washing away the bitter residue of the courthouse. I watched, my own silent vigil beside the truck, witnessing a rebirth. Her clothes, ragged and stained, suddenly mattered less than the newfound peace that settled on her face. It was a quiet grace, hard-won and deeply felt. "Thank you," she whispered, the words surprisingly strong. I just said, "Sometimes all it takes is a moment, a quiet hand to hold." She smiled, a shy, tentative thing, then grabbed my cap, perched it on her head, a playful glint in her eye. "So," she asked, "how's the new me?" "Ready to write the next chapter," I replied, meaning it from the bottom of my heart. The sun bled gold across the Florida coast, painting the ocean in shimmering hues as I sat with Sarah on the truck bumper. It wasn't a romantic scene, more a quiet truce after a shared silence, heavy with unspoken burdens. She'd been a ghost on the side of the road, a whisper of trouble in a crumpled wedding dress, but the weight seemed to lift with each salty breath we took. The ocean's rhythm, the rustling pines, it all felt like a balm. Sea breeze beckoned, a tiny fishing village clinging to the coast like a stubborn dream. We found a little guest house overlooking the water, a place that smelled of fresh paint and second chances. She looked around, a ghost finally finding some solid ground, and breathed a sigh of relief. "Perfect," she whispered, clutching my worn jacket like a lifeline. Unloading her meager belongings, that torn dress, that small bag. It felt like watching someone shed a skin, emerge, reborn. Her thanks were raw, heartfelt. "You saved me, Jack," she said, her voice thick with emotion. And in that moment, I felt the weight of what I'd done settle in my chest. It was nothing spectacular, just a moment of shared humanity. A helping hand on a lonely road. It was just a truck, a broken-down truck, and a stranger showing up on a bad day. But she was starting over, on her terms. Her hug, fierce and grateful, spoke volumes. Watching her walk into that guest house, a tiny flicker of hope in her eyes, filled me with something akin to peace. I climbed back in my Kenworth, the engine rumbling like a contented beast. The road stretched ahead, long and winding, but somehow the miles felt lighter. Later, at a gas station, a kid asked about my haul. "Empty," I said with a grin. He just shrugged. Not everyone needs to understand. Back in the cab, the radio spun out a country tune, a story of heartache, of letting go, of finding your way again. The song, the sun, the smell of gas and coffee, all painted a picture of simple acts, small gestures that make up the fabric of kindness, the unseen ripples of helping hands. I didn't save the world that day, just one small corner of it. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes life throws you a curveball, and you find yourself unexpectedly rescued, not by grand gestures, but by the smallest act of human connection. That moment, when you lend a hand, is a lifeline to someone adrift. Think about it. What if you were that lifeline for someone else? It doesn't require heroism, just a pause, a listening ear, a presence. We're all just navigating this crazy journey, searching for glimmers of hope in the storm. You might be that unexpected detour someone needs to find their way, a beacon in their darkest hour. You could be the unexpected kindness that shifts someone's perspective, a moment of peace in their chaos, a friendly face in a sea of anonymity. A simple gesture, a kind word, a helping hand can have a profound impact. It can be the difference between despair and hope, between loneliness and connection, between feeling lost and finding your way. That small act of compassion can be a turning point, a life raft, a moment of grace in their lives. Imagine being the answer to someone's silent prayer, the unexpected sunshine breaking through the clouds, the gentle hand that pulls them from the depths. Your kindness creates ripples, changing not only their world, but your own. You hold the power to brighten someone's day, to inspire hope, to leave an indelible mark. Be that light, that unexpected twist in someone's story. Be the difference. It all starts with you, one act of compassion at a time.